You're listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands, with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan.
Forgive me, Sharan, if this sounds like a name of a Thai dish, but I keep hearing Tam Sam SOM a lot these days. I understand that neither you nor our listeners would mistake this for a Thai dish name because all of you guys are intelligent enough and clued in enough to know these are some of the terms which are regularly used now in the startup world, made very, very famous by this show called Shark Tank.
Absolutely.
I just thought that for today's episode, given some amount of work that you do with some of the businesses who are either starting up or they are trying to change their course, I will try quiz you on what these terms mean. How should one be using them? What are the things to be wary of, and how do you use them carefully? And then possibly demonstrate some examples so that our listeners are able to clearly understand what does TAM SAM SOM mean.
I can definitely try answering them because every time, depending on who I talk to, the definition of each of these keep varying. So let's try and give it as definitive an example and possibly even bust a few myths about these numbers at all.
Let's do that. So, okay, let's start with the first one, which is possibly one of the ones which was quoted fairly widely on Shark Tank, and I think it was defined also by one of the sharks. What is TAM?
TAM is nothing but your total addressable market. It's pretty much the total market demand for a product or service in terms of revenue. And that, say, if you had 100% of the market, what would your revenue be? And that is what is popularly defined as a TAM. And it's largely used, say, to gauge the potential growth in a business and the category it's operating in. And it's a fairly straightforward calculation actually, which talks about multiplying the number of potential customers by the number of occasions and the cost per occasion or the revenue per occasion. That's a pretty straightforward calculation of what a TAM would be.
Okay, so potential customers, number of potential customers into number of occasions into revenue per occasion.
That's pretty much your 100% market share, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what TAM really is. That's what pretty much it is. But it ends up being used for very, very different means. And TAM is, like you said, because of Shark Tank, almost becomes a entry yes or no question for a lot of the entrepreneurs and investors.
Okay, and would you say that TAM is a measure of whether the entrepreneur is thinking big or not, or is it a measure of whether you are entering a lucrative enough market or not?
I'd say it's more an information table to say how big can your potential be.
Okay,
It is one of the indicators. In fact, yeah, it's one of the indicators for how big your business can be, but not the only indicator.
okay, fair. When you say it is not the only indicator, just elaborate a bit more. Why is TAM now not the only number that an investor or some of us should look at?
See, I've seen conversations between investors and entrepreneurs, and even entrepreneurs just deciding on whether to start up or not start up by just looking at a TAM calculation. Now, see, a TAM indicates a growth potential for a business, yes, but a TAM doesn't tell you if that business size is waiting for you to come and capture it. Like, invariably, in 90% of the cases, even 95% of the cases, a large TAM also means a large number of competition. People are already fighting for that large space, large opportunity. The larger the opportunity, more visible it is. And therefore, there are more people fighting for it. However, on the downside, what happens is when you say, if it's not a large enough TAM, I am not going to invest or I'm not going to enter this business, you are at a risk of letting go of opportunities, especially in the niches. A niche business could be highly profitable and with very little competition most of the time. And a lot of businesses that start in the niche end up expanding into far broader players over time. So this is a one of the metric to say how big you can be, but it doesn't define how big you can be. You need to take it with a whole bag of salt and have your business brand vision straight before you let this make become your defining decision factor.
Okay, fair. And then basis what what you were just saying, because you're trying to define your potential consumers, so that also makes it sound as if your potential consumers change, TAM will also change.
Of course, it does. TAM is definitely not a fixed number, and that is another reason why it can't be your only metric, because it really depends on how you slice the pie, and that's how you get to look at TAM very differently. Depending on the category you're operating, the life stage of the category, your TAM can shrink or expand. For example, electric vehicle chargers, they would have formerly been defined by the number of electric cars in India. But today, the number of electric cars are only so much more that the TAM for electric charging stations has gone up. Especially in evolving new technology categories, your TAM is always evolving. It's not constant. It's, in fact, in most cases, it's rising, but in some cases it can also be dropping, like in the case of, say, tech impacted bookstores rather. So ebooks might not have affected reading to that much of an extent. Say, probably in my estimate is about 20% of physical book readers might have adopted to e-readers, but online book buying has actually killed physical bookstores to large extent. So the TAM of bookstores has gone down. So a TAM, depending on the industry, depending on how the category is evolving, also constantly moves. And these are tectonic shifts. And these one aren't easily accounted for. And these shouldn't necessarily be your decision factors at all.
Okay, so just a clarificatory question, because you said
Hmm.
that because of online marketplaces, a lot of people might have started buying books online. So therefore, just from a potential customer point of view, TAM for a bookstore or a physical book would still remain the same. However, the realization of TAM would have gone down because now you have competition from online bookstores, right?
I'm talking about TAM as bookstores. Let's say you are a software selling bookstore, then your TAM would have gone down. Now, your TAM would remain the same if you were a book publisher, but as a bookstore, you have competition, so your SAM changes. So we'll discuss that when we come to SAM. But if you were a software provider for bookstores or a library book or a bookkeeping software solutions provider, you don't have a TAM anymore for that.
Fair, understood. Okay, so let's move to the next one. What is SAM?
SAM is expanded as serviceable and available market. It is a segment of TAM that you can actually target. It's usually a subset of TAM that you can reach. It's based on the infrastructure you have, the business strategy you adopted. It's the market you are able to target within the TAM. It what it helps you estimate the market that you can acquire, and this is defined by who you're willing to target, who you're going after, and factors like that. And a great way to calculate SAM is by multiplying the number of potential customers by the percentage of the market that you can target. Now, you can target could be geographic means, could be affordability means, it could be by different factors.
Okay, it could also be by arriving at some kind of surrogates which will define what kind of people might be willing to try you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so therefore it is almost a downweighting to TAM. You downweight TAM by some measure.
Yeah, it usually is, but I again have a point of view on this that The SAM of a business does not have to be restricted by TAM, because we already touched upon TAM itself being an evolving factor. So if you tie your SAM too closely or too tightly to your TAM, then it kind of restricts your business thinking.
Unless you decide to change the time itself every time.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if you're flexible enough to change your TAM, then yes, SAM will always be a subset. But if you want to expand your business beyond your TAM, you don't have to restrict yourself within that space, because there's just a calculation metric for investors and for you to give you projections. So let's say, look at Mama Earth, for example. They started off as a baby product, baby care company. Now, from baby care, they expanded to mothers, then to larger women personal care. Now they've even gone into men's personal care. Now that is a SAM that's continued to evolve, which is a virtue of the TAM also continuing to evolve. But had the SAM been defined by TAM, then this business thinking would not have happened, or may not have happened.
Like maybe fairness creams. At one point in time, time must have been all women, and then the industry evolved and somebody exploded it. They saw TAM differently, and therefore they saw their SAM differently.
Absolutely, it's as good with movies, right? Once Bahubali does 1,000 crores, then Dangal does another 1,000 crores after that. So the market has just been defined by it, and you keep following through, saying, I can target more.
That sounds fair. Okay, and then for SAM, now tell me, you said that it talks about addressable market. That sounds like something which is a function of quite a few things: function of imagination, function of investment that you have, function of the risk you are willing to take, etc., etc. Is that so?
Right. It is. And it's not completely controllable, as in, it's not always as easy to identify and frame based on your controllables, in the sense that it requires a deep understanding of the target market and the competitive landscape. A lot of game theory comes into play, saying if they have money, the competition is going to go after so much of a market share, their share of voice is so much. So it requires a lot of research to identify the portion of market that is actually interested in your brand and is willing to pay for it. So it's not something saying, I am going to go after A plus households in the metros of India. It's not as simple as that statement. It's about going into a lot more detail to say, what does it take to go after these households, and who are the people who are already fighting for the share of wallet, and then coming down to a reason saying, what is my right to justify to win the right portion of this wallet that I'm going to focus on. And that would define your SAM. And it's not always black and white. And you could come up with a different SAM for the same brand, and I could come up with a different SAM, and we have a logic right. As long as the logic is right and you are the business operator, you're fine.
Fair. That sounds logical. When we started TAM, you said TAM is not the only metric to look at. Did you mean that one should look at TAM as well as SAM, both?
In fact, TAM people should look at TAM, SAM, and SOM together. If they're looking to make an impact on the business or to judge a business. But yeah, looking at TAM and SAM together will give you far greater clarity than just looking at TAM. And again, SAM is not always the most relevant market to target, in the sense that, say, there could be opportunities beyond SAM, and that might not be there when you make your projections. There was this fabric fragrancer that I worked on some time back, and it had a better right to win in the pet care segment than it had in the fabric care segment. So the entire business was changed depending on where the brand was going. So those things also happen.
You're listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands. Your hosts are Sudeep Chawla, marketing practitioner, business leader, and educator to advertising and marketing professionals, and Sharavana Raghavan of Vitral Brand Expertise, growth consultants to consumer-facing brands and businesses. For more information, go to cobcast.net. If you find this podcast helpful, Please help us by telling your friends and rating us.
Let us get to the third metric, which is SOM. What is SOM?
The baby of the three, which is your service obtainable market.
Oh, okay. I always thought it was share of market.
Now, this share of market is the result.
Oh, okay.
When you are telling your boss, this is the market share I'm going to go after, it is a serviceable obtainable market. It is a potential market share.
Okay.
So at the beginning of the year, it is this sum. At the end of the year, it is your sum.
Hmm. Okay. Understood. Understood. Okay. So serviceable obtainable market.
Yeah, that's just fancy name for saying what market share you can get. It is the share of the SAM that you're going to go after, and what are you realistically capable of capturing.
Okay.
So, in addition to investments and strategy, it also takes competition spend, like I mentioned in SAM, that and your market realities into consideration. What channels am I going after? Am I going after all potential touch points? Am I going after the entire target audience properly within the SAM? So all of these come into play. So for this, you would calculate it by multiplying the number of potential customers by the percentage of the market that a brand can realistically capture. As in, this becomes a lot more tangible, at least sounds a lot more tangible when you're making the SOM numbers. And so let me put it in an entrepreneur sense, right? For an investor, your SOM becomes the most relevant number in the short term. The moment you achieve your SOM, so I'm going to achieve 2% market share, and you achieve that 2% market share, your investor starts to relax, saying, okay, you're starting to fulfill your promises. Now, if you can't reach your SOM, is when your investor starts going into panic, saying, you can't even do the SOM, what's the point of the TAM? Your SOM is your first measure for an investor in the entrepreneur investor relationship.
Okay. So it's supposed to be significantly more grounded than the other two.
Yes,
Okay. So hence, if I am a new brand who is only looking to going to go digital out, and hence my SOM will take that into account that I'm not going to be present in offline channel.
it should. Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
And then suppose in my brand journey, in my business journey, I become big enough and I realize that now I need to expand, and therefore I start looking at, for example, modern trade formats, and
Right.
hence at that stage my SOM will go up.
Absolutely. It'll go up manifold
Okay.
because you're adding another channel. So
Okay.
in today's parlance, you look at D2C brands
Yeah.
that are going omni-channel,
Yeah.
significantly alter their SOM.
SOM. Okay. While the TAM might still be the same.
Yes.
Okay. Understood.
But one watch out here on SOM, though, is something that's very in popular parlance going on, is that SOM is not always a reliable indicator of business performance because it does not take into account your profitability. You, as a new brand, as a startup brand, could have achieved your SOM, could have achieved a significant share of your SAM. Say you've taken 50% of your SAM, and you might not have taken your profitability into consideration at all because you do have, say, you're selling on the marketplaces and your SAM itself is a little restrictive and you've gotten 50% of SAM. Now, you spent a lot of money to get that. Now, is that proof of good business? That's for anybody to judge, and that's what the market eventually does when you list it. So a SOM is the first gate for an investor to judge a business and the entrepreneur, not necessarily the most credible health indicator of a business. That's a caveat I'd put on the table.
Okay. Fair. So now when you are grounding SOM so much, how is this different from market share?
Because here, this is what your business plans indicate, saying what market share you can get at the beginning of the year. Now, at the end of the year, let's say you, at the beginning of the year, you put your market plans, your sales plans, your business strategy all to acquire 2% of the market. That's the SOM. At the end of the year, if you've done 1.5% of the market or you got 3% of the market, that is your actual share of market. This is obtainable, which is set in the future. It's future very tense when it's being listed.
Fair. So it's the promise of a market share, which might or might not get delivered, and market share tells you what you have actually delivered.
Yes, and this is what your business plans are gauged.
And therefore, you were saying that one should look at TAM, SAM, SOM, all of them
Right.
in consonance to
Hmm.
possibly try and judge a business.
Right.
And why did you say so? Just say, give us a little bit of more clarity around that.
Because see, what does TAM tell you? TAM tells you the global picture or the large scale picture.
Uh huh.
Now, the large scale picture doesn't tell you does not take competition into account. It does not tell you when you're going to be very large. It only tells you there's a large customer base you can go after.
Yeah.
Now, who are you running with? What are you capable of doing there? Nobody knows. And then when you add SAM to it, it then tells you, it kind of slices the market to say, okay, for this brand in this business, your SAM kind of tapers down to a smaller portion of the TAM. Therefore, this is what we should be talking about. Then the moment you add SOM, your actual business capabilities to it, then it narrows down even further. Say in the short term, this is my potential business size. And that is using all the three layers is a lot more saying, as an investor, I'm investing today. In the short term, how big the business is going to be, in the medium term, how big the business is going to be, and in the long term, potentially, how big can the business get, is the way an investor or an entrepreneur should look at the business. So, therefore, using all the three filters gives you a more holistic picture.
I'm reminded of another example. I was watching this video podcast called Barbershop, and he was hosting Mr. Mahapatra. He is the founder of this company called Off Business. They work in the commodities market, and they do credit financing there, trade financing there, and they deal in all kind of gases and metals and all of that. So
I think you mentioned this. It's a very unglamorous
yeah,
category
so
that
Shantanu
people
asked
are.
him, why did you choose this? So this guy said almost something to what you were earlier saying, that this is such an unglamorous business. I knew not many people will be looking at it. And hence, therefore, I had the opportunity to, really go and be a big player there. Now, if I were to be thinking on his behalf, he would have
Hmm.
seen that the TAM is decently big.
Hmm.
Maybe not as big as, say, a cosmetic brand, but it decently big. But the chance of SOM is possibly very high. SOM, the ratio of SOM to TAM possibly is very high in this business, because one, he is the first mover, and number two,
Hmm.
there aren't many competitors any which ways, and aren't going to be also, because the sector is very unglamorous, technical, boring, etc.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Boring is the word there.
yeah,
Yes, you're right.
and therefore, that also might prompt some of the investors to look at that
Hmm.
the distance between SOM and TAM might not be very big for slightly niche but highly profitable businesses,
Exactly.
while for some of the businesses the distance between SOM and TAM might be very very big, depending on how big the TAM is and how competitively intensive each one of those sectors are.
Oh, absolutely.
Fair.
But Sudeep, I'm going to get you to do some maths, which I'm not very good at.
Okay.
For the example, I want you to work off the TAM, SAM, and SOM for your very famous healthy chocolate.
We're still on the healthy chocolate after 35, 36 episodes.
I can't get over that.
Okay. Excellent. So let's do that. Okay, cool. So when we were talking about healthy chocolate, I'll keep the positioning, etc. aside. Total addressable market. So who all will possibly eat healthy chocolate? And we were at that time thinking of healthy chocolate as a snack. Yeah, it is something that you can eat any time and not just restricted to only meetha occasions, etc. So from a TAM perspective, I will possibly want to look at snacking occasions, and I would say that uh, out of the entire India population, so about 140 crore of population, roughly about 40-45 crore households. Yeah, let's just remove the bottom 20% households where possibly there is a uh, BPL, or they are right now at a sustenance level, and hence the concept of snacking might not be significantly relevant. So we are left with about 80% of 45 crores. So therefore about 36 crores, um 36 crore household. Yeah. Or maybe for ease of calculation, let's take it as 30 crore households. So 30 crore household is your potentially addressable market. Yeah. You start from there. Now you said that multiplied by number of occasions. Now I take one snacking occasion a day. Snack once a day, which is somewhere possibly in the evening, somewhere between 4 and 6. Let's take that as one occasion. And for some people in the household, for example the men of the house or the youngsters, etc., they might not be snacking at that point in time, but they'll be snacking slightly late. But one snacking occasion in the house. So 30 crore into once a day, which means 30 occasions a month. So 30 crore into 30 for a monthly calculation, into per snacking occasion. If you take about 3 to 4 people per household, they might end up spending a minimum of about 25 rupees per day
Okay.
on snacking.
Let's say let's say 20 rupees
20
per day.
rupees per day for snacking. So
Hmm.
30 into 30 into 20, so roughly about 900 into 20, 18,000. So
18,000 crores.
yes, so about 18,000 crores would be your TAM for
Right.
snacking. If you think of
Right.
yourself as a snacking option, so 18,000 crore per month
Hmm.
could be your TAM.
Perfect. And this is where you're talking about an Indian brand. You're not looking at a national level. That's clear on the TAM point.
National, huh? All India.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So your
So
TAM is 18,000 crores for the healthy
per
child.
month, yes. Now you
Perfect.
start going to SAM. Now, from my previous experience in a little bit of what I know about snacking, etc., one of the key concepts in India that works is garam nashta, thanda nashta, right? So hot snacks and cold snacks, and India considers hot snacks as better because they are considered fresh, homemade, etc., etc. So therefore, about 60% of your snacking occasions, yeah, or the 60% of the snacking market would possibly go with that, and you're left with only 40%. Yeah. Now 40% is out of 18,000 crores. 40% is 7,200 crores. Yeah. Now 40% market is your cold snacks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 60 thought 40 is cold.
40 is
Fair.
cold. So therefore 7,200 crore becomes your cold snack market. I think within cold snack, you need to think about savory and sweet, because finally you are a chocolate, so you will be sweet. So I think a filter of savory and sweet needs to be used. What I know from my previous experience in this category is that snacking, a significant part of the snacking is savory, because savory gives rise to moorishness. You tend to eat more, you want to eat more, you tend to munch more.
Right. So
Like,
you continue to munch. When it's salty, you end up munching more,
correct.
like
So,
popcorn.
like it happens with popcorn or namkeen or stuff like that. Whereas you don't do that with something that is sweet, because sweet is satiating. So beyond a point, you will not be able to eat more than 2 3 pieces of sweet, while you might actually gobble up the entire bowl of savory snacks. Yeah. So therefore, my best guess will be, so about 70%, 80% of the market again would go to savory, and we are left with about 20 30% of the market for sweet snacks. Yeah. So we were left with 7,200 crores. So if 70% of that goes, so you have roughly about uh, 30% left, which is about 2,000 crores. Yeah. So now your SAM then possibly is 2,000 crores of 2,000 crore of monthly sweet snacking market.
Right. This includes branded, unbranded, everything.
Everything. This includes lots of
That's
stuff.
the SAM you want to define.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would possibly include branded, unbranded sweets, as in mithai, then sweet biscuits, all sorts of them, glucose, cookies, and chocolate biscuit, etc., etc. It would include ice creams, and it would include chocolates. Yeah, fairly big categories there. So your SAM therefore becomes 2000 crores per month. Now you come to SOM, right? Now in SOM, you would then say that, okay, how am I going to define my competition?
Hmm.
And the
Your positioning.
yeah, and the positioning and the competition is defined by the positioning.
Right.
So if I say to the consumer that don't eat chocolates, eat me, then my competition is chocolates. If
Hmm.
I tell them don't eat sweets, eat me, then my competition is sweets. So it depends on how I am approaching the market. Suppose I approach the market as chocolates, for example.
How you want to define your marketing objective
Yes.
comes back to that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So now, within that 2000 crore, you have four big categories. You have biscuits, you have ice creams, you have chocolates, and you have um
Mithai.
mithai. Yeah. So out of these four, my hunch is that biscuits will be the biggest.
Right.
It'll be about 40% of the market.
Right.
Yeah. And then there'll be possibly mithai, which will be another maybe 25-30%. Yeah.
Right.
And then there'll be uh, chocolates, which is another 10 to 15%. So that makes it
And ice cream another
40,
10 to
35,
15.
75, 75, and 15, 90, and 10% will be ice cream, roughly.
Right.
So if chocolate is 15%, so 15% of 2000 crores is about 300 crores. So if
Hmm.
you're defining chocolate as your market, so your SOM ideally should come out of chocolate, which is about 300 crores
300
per
crore.
month. Within that, you might want to say that some bit of it will be for indulgent. Yeah,
Yeah.
but from my marketing point of view, from my spend point of view, because I'm taking on the entire chocolate industry, you
Hmm.
might say that my against when I'm fighting with the likes of Cadbury or Nestle or Hershey's, etc., etc., I will at best be able to invest sufficient money to create a 30% share of voice for me in the next entire year. And
Okay.
30% share of voice might give me, for example, a 10%, at best a 10% market share.
Ambitious, but
Yeah.
yes.
So therefore, hence, in a 300 crore of uh, chocolate market per
Right.
month, I will get about 10% SOM, which is about 30 crore per month.
Right.
So that's how I whittled down from 18,000 crore per month of TAM to about 30 crore of
Right.
SOM.
Right.
Yeah, per month.
Now, if you apply your trade to this, your positioning of for women to this, it will further come down. But to avoid complexity,
Yes.
I think this is a good place to stop because this very clearly says how you break things down from a TAM to a SAM to a SOM.
Yeah. And these are all again indicative numbers. I
Yeah,
might have gone somewhere wrong here and there, but the idea is to just possibly tell as to how to look at surrogates to cut a particular market, and then how to keep putting filters so that you are able to arrive at an answer that seems logical to you.
exactly.
Yeah. So does that pass your approval, Sharon?
I was just happy you took away the number pressure from me.
No, I'm sure uh, a lot of our business friends, startup friends would have met some consultants. They are very good at crunching numbers, so they will, at the flick of their wrist, will be able to produce the TAM SAM SOM for you. At least on the Excel sheet, they can, as long as you
Right,
guide them with some of the specificities of the business, which is uh, about what kind of market are you going after, what do you know
right,
about them, about their consumption occasions, throughput per occasions, etc. And then from a SOM perspective, what do you think we will be able to target and all of that?
right.
uh,
And I also hope we've managed to bust a few myths about these three factors because a lot sometimes I've met entrepreneurs who are intimidated by these numbers,
uh
by the TAM, SAM, and SOM, and I also met entrepreneurs who use it wrong
sure.
and make a few fatal mistakes. So I hope we managed to clarify that today.
Yeah, hope so. I think this is a good one. And I think the way you put definitions of TAM SAM SOM makes it fairly clear, and also makes it amply clear that one should not be using each one of these metric individually, It is best to look at them in a combined manner when you're evaluating as the business or a business opportunity from a investor point of view as well as from a entrepreneur point of view.
Right.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for this, Sharan.
Thank you for listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharavana Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net. That's COBBCAST.net.